My mother's name was Eva Marie Kane. She was a very vibrant woman when she was younger. She was a homemaker. She raised 4 children, was a good mother, was a very loving mother. When I made the decision to move her closer to me, she was 76 years old at that time. She was a wanderer, as most Alzheimer patients are, and had become incontinent, had lost her voice. She could barely mutter yes or no. So I made the decision to move her to a home in Sacramento. She was there for 32 days and ultimately died. I don't think that she died because of the Alzheimer's. I don't think that she died because of old age. My mother died as a result of the care that she was given in this nursing home that she was in for a mere 32 days.
I want to go home. I want to go home. Get back my teeth. I want to go home. Get me my teeth. I want to go home. Where are my teeth? I want to go home. Get my teeth. Get my teeth. Let me go home. No, don't put me in here. Home. No, don't put me in. No. No, I want to go home. Let me go home. Home. Let me out of here. Let me out.
As a mandated reporter of elder and dependent adult abuse, you are in a unique position. You are the person who is entrusted with the day-to-day health and welfare of some of the most vulnerable among us. But beyond that, you are responsible to help protect these special people from anyone who would abuse them.
Abuse, neglect, or violence of any kind is illegal and should never be part of any caregiving situation. California law requires this training so that you will fully understand your legal duties and better provide the care and protection that the residents of your facility deserve.
I just need a little help here. I just need some help. Don't take my button away. Don't take my button away.
They are silent crimes, hidden crimes, and sadly, crimes that affect millions of victims and their families.
To help protect elders and dependent adults, California law requires that certain individuals are mandated to report incidents of known or suspected abuse.
A lot of people don't realize they are mandated reporters. Those that call us are normally those that are concerned with the outcome or with the welfare of the residents within the facilities. When they find out they're mandated reporters, that's usually a double shock to them.
Ignorance of the law is no excuse, and that's true in this case. If you do not know that you should report, I am going to say you should have known. You know, there's plenty of training available. It is your responsibility to find out what the laws are and then be a responsible reporter.
As a mandated reporter, it is your individual legal duty to report all known or suspected abuse of elders and dependent adults.
Reporting responsibilities under the law are individual. If there is a particular policy within the institution in which you work and it requires you to report to a certain person, that's fine. They can have any kind of policy they want for reporting, so long as it doesn't interfere with your individual obligation to report. If that incident isn't reported, then you, the person who had the obligation to report, could be in trouble. You could be charged with a crime.
All employees of a facility are required to report abuse, and that means the janitor or a cook who just happens to be walking down a hall and witnesses abuse are mandated to report it. Now remember, as a mandated reporter, you must report if, 1, you have been told of an incident by an elder or dependent adult, or 2, you have observed or have knowledge of an incident that reasonably appears to be abuse, or 3, you reasonably suspect that an incident has occurred.
Simply put, you are a mandated reporter, and it is your individual legal duty to report known or suspected incidents of abuse.
Leaving you here while we take care of your room.
Are you okay?
As a mandated reporter, the first thing you need to know is that elders, dependent adults, or adults with disabilities are all protected by California's mandated reporter law. Physical abuse includes hitting, biting, kicking, slapping, pinching, rape, incest, sodomy, or the withholding of food and water. It also includes any unreasonable restraint by physical or chemical means. Over-medication, under-medication, or the withholding of medication is also abuse. Possible signs of physical abuse can include unusual scratches, skin tears, bruises, or welts. Also, any injuries caused by biting, cutting, pinching, or twisting of limbs. Additionally, burns or blistering and torn or bloody undergarments are indicators.
You know, there are many physical abuse cases that we prosecute. One involved a worker in a facility. That facility worker actually struck the patient. The patient revealed this to another worker who in turn made a report, and that's how we found out about that case and were able to prosecute.
Neglect is another form of abuse you must report. It is defined as the failure to assist in personal hygiene or provide food. Neglect also includes failure to provide proper medical care and the failure to protect a resident from health and safety hazards. Some indicators of neglect can be soiled linen or clothing, untreated skin disorders or rashes, neglected bed sores, dehydration, malnutrition, unkempt or dirty appearance, and failure to provide dentures, hearing aids, eyeglasses, or medication.
There was a case that involved patients who were suffering from dehydration due to extreme heat exposure. A facility person reported that patients were suffering. They felt that it was wrong. They felt that this was an abusive situation. And because of that, law enforcement responded, emergency medical teams all responded. When that was reported, that greatly facilitated stopping the suffering of I don't know how many other patients if the condition would have continued on.
Financial abuse can be just as serious as other forms of abuse. It can remove all the safety and comfort that the victim has and puts them in a position of far greater vulnerability. Indicators can include the disappearance of papers or checkbooks, staff members assisting with credit card purchases or ATM withdrawals, lack of grooming items or clothing, staff using residents' personal items, and bills left unpaid when funds are available.
I had a case of an elderly female who lived in a long-term care facility, and she had allowed one of the workers there to cash checks for her. When she finally got her bank statement, she recognized there was more activity in the account than she had authorized. She confided in another employee at the facility, who then reported that to us. The conclusion of this case was that the mandated reporter acted appropriately and did what they were supposed to do, started the ball rolling, got law enforcement involved, and the victim got justice because the suspect was arrested.
Other forms of reportable abuse are isolation, acts that keep a resident from receiving mail, phone calls, or contact with family, friends, and other concerned individuals, and abandonment, the deserting of an elder or dependent adult. One other form of abuse you need to know about doesn't involve staff or family. It is resident-to-resident abuse.
Resident-to-resident abuse is when one resident in a facility abuses another resident in the same facility in any way, whether it's physical, mental, or financial.
As with all other forms of abuse, resident-to-resident abuse is illegal and must be reported.
Staff in facilities are reluctant to report resident-to-resident abuse, partially because they do not understand that it has to be reported, and they think that abuse is only reportable if it's a staff person or possibly a family member that's abusing the patient.
These patients are very frail typically. They have a lot of medical issues, and just simply being pushed over or pushed out of bed or pushed in the shower or something like that can be life-threatening. And so that has to be a consideration of the staff when they're looking at resident-on-resident abuse.
Remember, all residents in your facility are protected by California's mandated reporter law, no matter what form the abuse takes and whether it is intentional or unintentional. Abuse is illegal and must be reported.
Mrs. Russell, we're going to be having dinner in about 15 minutes, all right? Let me just hold on to your cell phone for safekeeping. Hi, how's it going? How's the weather there? No way!
As a mandated reporter, it's important to remember that all you are legally required to do is report. You're not an investigator or a judge. Reporting is your individual responsibility and can't be delegated or passed on to anyone.
You are an individual reporter and you are responsible to make the report. You cannot simply rely on your supervisor or some other administrator to make the report. And so failure to do so means that you are still liable and I will come after you.
While your facility may require you to notify a supervisor or administrator, this does not relieve you of your legally required reporting duties.
A supervisor, an administrator, anybody who's your boss, however you want to define it, they cannot tell you to not report something. No matter what their rules or regulations are internally, you have an obligation to report, and they cannot tell you to not report. If they're doing that, they're absolutely in violation of the law.
You must report if a resident reports abuse to you, if you have witnessed or have knowledge of abuse, or if you reasonably suspect that abuse has occurred.
The reasonable suspicion is just simply whether you think that abuse has occurred. Do I believe that abuse has occurred? It's just a gut-level feeling that you might have. If you're thinking about it and you're thinking, should I report this? The answer is always going to be yes, because if you're engaging in this thought process, it's reasonable suspicion that there's been abuse.
The procedure is simple. First, you must immediately report by telephone to the long-term care ombudsman or local law enforcement.
Anyone who observes abuse or reasonably suspects abuse simply picks up the phone. The numbers usually are posted in most facilities in several different locations. Just pick up the phone, make the call to the ombudsman or the local law enforcement agency nearest you.
The initial phone report from a mandated reporter is not a lengthy process. The name of the facility, the resident involved, if they know any of the employees that might be involved, if it was that type of a report, the time it happened, the date it happened.
After they make that phone call, they must fill out the SOC 341, and they have 2 working days to do that.
The form you use for reporting is the SOC 341. Your facility has copies of the SOC 341 and must make them available. Additionally, your local long-term care ombudsman can give you forms and answer any questions you may have.
While all information on the SOC 341 is very important, please pay special attention to the following. Section A is victim identification information. The victim does not have to participate in the reporting process, and there may be more than one victim. Section B identifies you as the person making the report. Remember, the only individuals who will have this information will be the investigative or enforcement agencies receiving the report. Section D includes information on the type of abuse. Use your best judgment when identifying the specific kind of abuse that may have occurred. Section E is for comments or observations. You also need to list signs of abuse or neglect. Include any specific behavior or statements of the victim.
Section G is for you to list any other individuals that may have knowledge of the incident, the victim, or the alleged abuse. Section H identifies the suspected abuser. You need to provide as much information as possible. Section I identifies the date and to whom you made the telephone report. You must list the name of the person you reported to.
This particular form is available normally in the facility. However, if they don't have one, we will see that they get one by either mailing it to them or delivering it to them in person at the facility.
Again, you are a mandated reporter of known or suspected elder or dependent adult abuse. You are the one who must report immediately by phone to law enforcement or the ombudsman. You are the one who must follow that with a written report within 2 working days. For you, the law is clear. Reporting is your individual duty.
My book, you have
my book. That's my book.
If you have to make a report, it's natural to wonder what happens next.
Although you might never know the final outcome, your report will trigger an investigation that may stop needless suffering.
It may take some time before a mandated reporter sees any results from anything that they report, and a number of agencies may be conducting investigations in ways that the mandated reporter is not aware of.
As a mandated reporter, you have a legal obligation. Because of that, there are strong penalties for anyone who fails to report.
Failure to report is a very serious matter. The penalties are substantial. If you fail to report, you could receive up to 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine. But if great bodily injury or death takes place because of a failure to report, the penalties increase to 1 year in jail and a $5,000 fine. And we as a society are taking this very seriously, and we will move forward to prosecute for failure to report.
The law recognizes your sensitive position as a mandated reporter. Because of that, you are provided with 2 key protections. The first is immunity from civil and criminal liabilities.
If an employee reports something, their employers can't do anything to them in retribution, that their employers would be breaking the law if they did that. The law strictly prohibits the facility or the employer, if you will, from taking any action against them. They'd be vigorously prosecuted.
The second protection you have is confidentiality. Your identity as a reporter can only be disclosed to authorized investigating agencies. If anyone violates your confidentiality, they are guilty of a misdemeanor, punishable by up to 6 months in county jail, a fine of $500, or both.
We will keep the person who reported the incident anonymous so that the facility has no standing in pursuing any kind of action against the employee.
Those who suspect or observe abuse must report it because, quite simply, it's the law. The law says they are required and mandated.
If you work in a facility, you are a mandated reporter. That means if you don't report, you're breaking the law and you can be arrested.
The law goes hand in hand with the employees' what should be their mission. That if there's abuse, they should be part of the team of people that are trying to protect the elders.
I tell them all to report everything and anything they see. If they have a doubt, report it, because it's better reported than not reported at all.
Unless you get involved, the abuse will continue, or the person or facility will get away with it. And the person has an obligation when they see abuse to act on it. If it was their own mother or their own brother that this was happening to, would they want someone to overlook that?
Mandated reporters truly are the first line of defense for us. Unless mandated reporters come forward, these things will never come to light. We will never put an end to abuse and stop this increasing trend.
It's your legal duty to report. By reporting, you are following the law. By not reporting, you are breaking the law. It's that simple.
The purpose is clear: to protect those who can't protect themselves. Everyone has the right to be safe and secure in their own home, and for many, a long-term care facility is their home.
Most residents are frail. Many can't speak for themselves, and many more may not even comprehend that they are being abused. Helping protect them from agony, pain, and suffering is your responsibility.
My mother was born in Oklahoma, and she loved her family very much. She was very family-oriented. She loved to fish, and she was quite a left-handed fisherman. My dad used to tease her about that and her casting, but she loved that, and she loved her church and her church family. She always found a church that she could be happy in. My mother was 92 when she went into this nursing facility. She went in June. She passed away in August. Nobody called except my mother that night. She wanted me to know she was having trouble with the nurse, and she knew she was in trouble. She had started having all the symptoms of having a massive heart attack there. And they knew it. Being 92, she would have gone in a couple of weeks. month, 2 months. Maybe she'd gone another year or two. But it would have been her time. Not because somebody else didn't do the right thing.